My father was never easy to read. Everyone who knew him would say he was a reserved man who didn't talk much. But to me, he had simply withdrawn into his own world. A world shrouded in shadows, a waking nightmare. At night, I sometimes caught him staring out the window, gripping the arms of his chair. He did it so tightly that I felt like his fingers were about to start bleeding. He would lean so far forward that he almost fell out of his chair, as if he expected something horrible and incomprehensible to show up at our door at any moment. I realized as I got older that my father was overwhelmed by anxiety. Apart from the events I just told you about, he hid it well. Especially from my mother, but not well enough. Nothing scared my father more than piano notes, no matter where the sound came from the speakers of an elevator, or simply played directly by a Sunday pianist in a shopping mall to impress passers-by. Genre didn't matter, classical or jazz. When he heard the notes, his eyes widened and his skin turned pale, and he would look around quickly, shaking his head like a dog playing with its bone. I never had the courage to ask him what he was afraid of. Why hadn't I done it anyway? I blamed myself for that. But at the same time, it wasn't the kind of thing we talked about at home. Fear is contagious, and the fastest way it can spread to us is when we talk about it. That's why my father's fear haunted us our whole lives, untouchable like a piano that was never sold. My father passed away a year ago because of a heart problem. I thought his secret had died with him. But 2 weeks ago, I decided to visit my mother to sort through the things he had left behind. I was feeling a bit nostalgic. I was about to leave when I saw something that caught my attention. At the bottom of a box that had been hidden in the corner of the attic, there was an envelope with nothing written on it. Inside, I found a letter that contained several sheets of paper. The handwriting on it looked rough and clumsy, but it was without a doubt my father's handwriting. What I read in that letter has haunted me ever since. I decided to share it here and now because I hope that one of you will help me understand better. Or maybe I just want to share my father's distress with someone. My mother didn't want to listen to me when I told her what I had found. She told me to burn it and forget what was written inside. In fact, she even yelled at me as if I were a child. What you are about to hear from now on are my father's exact words. I haven't altered them. And you will hear them just as they were written.
I wonder how often I've tried to write this letter. How many sheets of paper I've torn up over the past few years. How many pens I've let dry out. Far too many. And if I ever have the courage to finish one day, I wonder who will read it. Maybe it will be my dear Elizabeth. Yes, it's surely you who are reading this right now. I'm sorry for hiding this from you. I haven't been a good husband, you don't know all of me. And I know it's terrible to hide things from your wife. I just hope you can forgive me, Elizabeth. Maybe it will be you, Jess, my daughter. You saw me better than I see myself. How many times did you notice that I had a blank stare? I'd simply reply that sometimes I get lost in my thoughts. If you read this, you will now know exactly what I saw that night, what I heard. Or maybe it's neither Elizabeth nor Jess saying this. Maybe it's you, Jonathan, or maybe your mother. God help me if that's the case. Have you finally found me? I've seen you out of the corner of my eye for the past 40 years. It could also be that you're just a stranger. In any case, it's time for me to tell you this story once and for all. Even if the pen and paper I'm writing on end up being the only witnesses to it. In 1976, I came home for the holidays. I was taking classes at the University of Wisconsin in Madison then. My parents lived in La Crosse. It was only a 2.5-hour drive. And while I was driving, I was caught by a snowstorm, a storm that had just come out of nowhere. Saying it came out of nowhere is an understatement. I wasn't sure which direction I was going anymore. I've never been very good at driving in the snow. If you're reading this, Elizabeth, I'm sure you won't disagree with me. Do you remember our station wagon? My God, I almost lost control of it more than 100 times. Those were the good old days. On days like that, I could barely hear the piano. Or at least, I tried to convince myself that I couldn't. But anyway, let's get back to what I was saying. So it was a terrible storm. and often I wonder if I could have done anything differently. What would have happened if I had driven more slowly or if I had turned back? But I think in a way it wouldn't have changed anything, because my car seemed destined to go off the road that day. I lost control of my vehicle and I went straight into the ditch. Everything I tried to get the car out of there was useless. The snow was falling heavily and the flakes were crashing against the windshield. Despite all that, I managed to spot a house that didn't seem very far away. It was the only dwelling that seemed to be around. And besides, I hadn't passed a single other car on the road for a long time. So I got out of my vehicle and walked toward the house. I was shocked to notice how high the snow was. The surroundings became unrecognizable. After several meters I turned around and I noticed that my car was already almost completely covered in snow. I neared the house, each step more exhausting than the last. Then I heard something that made me stop suddenly. I heard music coming from the house. It was the delicate sound of a piano. The music seemed to travel through the gusts of cold wind and land directly in my ears. Looking up, I thought the music was probably coming from the window on the first floor, behind the glass and the curtains. The light seemed to be on there. Then I looked down toward the ground floor. There was a woman behind the window, and she was staring at me with a questioning look. I nervously waved my hand in her direction. Then I turned around to point at my car. When I turned my head toward her again, I saw that she had disappeared. A few moments later, the front door of the house opened, so I walked toward the porch.
Can I help you?
The woman asked, still looking confused. It's a bit embarrassing, but I lost control of my car, and it fell into a ditch a little further up the road. I can't get it out of there.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
The woman had started.
Please come in and warm yourself up.
I had entered, and she had closed the door behind me, which muffled the sound of the storm raging outside. The only sound I could hear now was the piano coming from upstairs. That, and the sound of my ragged breathing because of the cold. This music, I said as I rubbed my hands to warm myself up. It's truly beautiful.
Oh, that's my son, Jonathan. He's an outstanding pianist. Please, make yourself comfortable. I'll make some tea. The weather is terrible, really terrible.
I had sat down on the living room couch. It was a warm house, cozy, yet there was something that made me feel uneasy. At the time, I didn't really know what it was. But thinking back today, I guess my mind had noticed the little strange details. To begin with, there were no family photos hanging on the wall. And despite the warmth of the house, it had a strange sterile smell. The same smell you can sense in hospitals. It looked like someone lived there, but only on the surface. "Excuse me, could I use your phone?" I had asked.
The phone doesn't work?
The woman had replied while bringing 2 cups of tea.
I doubt the phone lines will be fixed before morning. Once they are, I'll call my neighbor Harvey since he's closest. I'll ask him to bring his tractor and he'll get your car out of that ditch.
Can you contact me another way besides phone? I don't want to bother you, but I was heading to La Crosse to spend the holidays with my family, and I really would have liked to arrive tonight. Upstairs, the piano had stopped. The woman had taken a big sip of her tea, staring at me with her pale green eyes from behind her cup. She then set it down very slowly before saying,
La Crosse? My God, how did you end up here in Dutchville County?
"Ah, I must have gotten lost. Dutchville County, you say? I've never been through there before."
Well, there's nothing we can do now. On foot, Harvey's house is much too far. Unfortunately, you'll have to wait until morning, my dear. I'm truly sorry.
Your son Jonathan, how old is he?
He'll be 20 next month.
She answered gently. "Oh, could he? Well, as I told you, I wouldn't want to bother, but do you think he could help me get my car out of there?"
No.
She replied in a monotone and no longer seemed confused, and her eyes had narrowed.
Jonathan can't move properly. Even if he could, it wouldn't be safe to drive in weather like this. You might get into another accident. Don't worry, you can sleep on the couch tonight. And as I told you, Harvey will help you tomorrow, and then you can go back to see your parents.
I see. I guess I don't have any other choice. I realized then that I hadn't sipped my tea. But looking at the cup, I had lost all desire to quench my thirst. The tea looked like stagnant water, just taken from a sewer. I didn't dare drink it, and for a few moments we sat there in perfect silence. Without music, an oppressive silence filled the house.
By the way, where are you from?
The woman asked me as she put her empty cup on the table. I'm coming back from the University of Madison.
Oh, that's great. And what are you studying?
I'm studying engineering.
How nice. My Jonathan also loved engineering when he was little. He loved building gadgets, maybe even more than playing piano, but his condition prevented him from continuing school. He hasn't gone out in years. All he does is play the piano from morning until night.
He does it perfectly, if I may say so.
Yes. Yes, but where are my manners? I haven't even introduced you.
She then told me to follow her to the stairs. As I was about to step onto the first stair, a horrible feeling came over me. You know, the same feeling you get when you're walking down a dark alley in the middle of the night. That kind of primal instinct that screams at you to run away. When I reached the top of the stairs, I noticed the hallway was dark, only lit by a small lamp. We passed several rooms before reaching the door at the end of the hallway. The woman, whose name I foolishly hadn't asked, gently opened the door. Then she said,
Jonathan, there's someone I'd like you to meet.
The first thing I saw when I entered the room was the huge piano in the corner. It was beautiful, but it didn't seem to belong in such a small room. It was the kind of piano you would see at concerts. The light from outside filtered through the curtains in the room, wrapping it in an almost heavenly atmosphere. I felt like I was in some kind of dream. Then I saw Jonathan sitting on his bed. I froze. I don't know if I can describe Jonathan as being like a doll. He was way too big to be one, yet he seemed as limp as a rag doll. So Jonathan wasn't a human being. He was just an inanimate object dressed up to look like a human. He was wearing sky blue pajamas and a red wig. His fabric skin must have been white before, but now it was a strange beige. He had 2 buttons of different sizes instead of eyes. It made him look like he was always winking with one eye. I did the only thing I was capable of doing at that moment. I laughed, with a hoarse and nervous laugh.
I don't allow you to laugh.
The woman had said dryly. She wasn't looking at me when she said that. She was staring at the window and stroking Jonathan's lifeless leg with her hand, as if to reassure him.
Oh, how they love to laugh. One time, Jonathan was sitting on the porch, just minding his own business. That's when those awful boys from town showed up and started picking on him. I'll never forget their laughter, as I chased after them and they pedaled away as fast as they could to escape. But as they say, he who laughs last laughs best. Those rascals loved riding their bikes in a certain part of the city, and one of them fell because of the gravel and hit his head. He's still in the hospital. Oh yes, I'm the one who gets the last laugh.
I'm sorry, I said in a dry, panicked voice.
Apology accepted.
The woman replied, turning toward me. She had a shocked expression on her face, which quickly turned into a wide, shark-like smile. A thought suddenly hit me hard. She was so terrifying that I could have fainted right then and there. My body felt 10 times heavier. Downstairs, when the woman and I were there, someone had played the piano. There had to be someone else here. Obviously, Jonathan wasn't capable of doing it. And the very idea that this grotesque doll could be alive went against everything I believed in. I scanned the room. I was looking for a radio or a tape recorder, anything that could have created the piano sound I heard earlier. But there was nothing like that, only the piano.
Is there someone else in the house?
I asked. The woman smiled again and said,
Of course not. Jonathan and I live alone.
Jonathan kept staring into space with those horrible buttons he had for eyes. For a split second, I thought I saw his head move slightly. I blinked and rubbed my eyes. When I opened them again, I saw that Jonathan was just as still as he had been from the start. The woman had walked past me.
I'm going to make your bed now.
She had said as she left the room.
You need to rest for tomorrow.
I found myself alone in the room with Jonathan, and the heavy silence that surrounded us. None of this could be real, right? It was obvious this woman was trying to trick me. I scanned the room again, silently praying to find the source of the sound. But there was nothing. I tried to convince myself to approach Jonathan, but just one look at his motionless body made me immediately change my mind. So I hurried out of the room, and that's when I heard a noise. Something had just moved from the bed right behind me. I started running. In a few seconds, I was at the bottom of the stairs, and a few seconds later, I was out of that damn house. I knew it was suicide to go out in the middle of a storm, but I wasn't going to stay there any longer. The snow was so deep it slowed me down, and for a horrible moment, I imagined Jonathan running after me and catching up with me at superhuman speed. I don't know why, but I imagined his doll-like arms swinging in a supernatural way as he ran. The woman's scream behind me snapped me out of my thoughts. She was begging me to come back. And that's when I heard two sounds that chilled me to the bone. The first was the evil laugh of the horrible woman, carried away by the gusts of wind. I turned around and saw her standing on the porch. She had a big smile on her face, but she looked much taller and paler than before. But that's not the sound that traumatized me. It's the sound of the piano. It was definitely coming from Jonathan's room. Now, I was sure of it. I couldn't find my car, but it wouldn't have been useful anyway. I ran to the end of the street as the woman's laughter faded. That wasn't the case for the piano. No matter how far I went, I could still hear it. The music followed me like a bad memory. I don't know how long I wandered in the snow. But at some point, I collapsed, and I was convinced I was going to die. But fortunately, I saw a light coming toward me. I could see it was a tractor. A man was driving it. He got out, started saying something to me, but I couldn't hear him. I kept losing consciousness. The last thing I saw before I completely passed out was him standing right above me, with a worried look. The last thing I heard was the sound of piano music. The next morning, I woke up in a completely unfamiliar bed. I panicked, thinking I was back in that horrible house, and maybe even in the same bed as Jonathan. But fortunately, that wasn't the case. I was in a normal room, alone. Outside, the sun had come out again, and the storm had stopped. I heard the floor creak on the other side of the door. I was even afraid that it would be the woman who appeared in the doorway, smiling and laughing out loud. Instead, it was the man who drove the tractor.
Great, you're awake.
The man told me warmly.
How do you feel?
Where am I? I asked, ignoring his question.
You're in my house. I found you just down the street last night. What were you thinking?
My car broke down. Are you with that woman?
Which woman?
The woman who lived a little further from where you found me. At first, the man didn't answer me. He just stared at me. And then, in a thoughtful voice, he said,
The woman who lives a little further from where I found you?
Are you with her? I asked, gripping the edge of the bed, like my life depended on it.
No, I'm not with anyone. I'm here all alone.
I relaxed a little bit more. Okay, I need to call my parents. I was on my way to visit them when I broke down.
The phone is in the kitchen. You can use it without any problem. While you were sleeping, I cleared part of the roads with my tractor. I found a car. I assume it's yours. We can go back there when you're ready to keep getting it out of the hole it's stuck in. I'm almost done, by the way.
If you saw my car, you must have seen the house where that woman lives. It's in that house that there is this woman and her son Jonathan. But the thing is, he's not...
The house where this woman lives,
repeated the man in a thoughtful voice. Yes, you must have seen it if you saw my car.
You should call your parents. And after that, if you feel better, I'll drive you to your car.
He gave me a reassuring smile before getting up to leave. Is your name Harvey? I asked him before he left the room. He turned around quickly. His smile had completely disappeared, and now he was frowning.
That's right. How do you know my name?
The woman, she told me about you and your tractor.
Is that true?
He remained motionless for a few seconds, his eyebrows furrowed even more.
Call your parents, and then we'll go look for your car.
Then he left me alone in the room, me and my doubts. My parents were relieved to hear my voice. I didn't mention my misadventure with Jonathan and his mom. I just told them that my car had slipped into a ditch, and that I had spent a night in the house of a good Samaritan. And I added that with a bit of luck, I would arrive in Madison a little later in the day. Then I got into the tractor with Harvey, and as we drove I was amazed at how much he had cleared the snow. Last night's storm had been violent, but now it looked like it had barely snowed. We finally arrived in front of my car. Harvey had told the truth. He had already done most of the work. He turned off the engine, and our eyes landed on the same spot, at the same moment, toward the place where the house was, or rather, where it should have been. Because it was no longer there, at least not in the way I had seen it the night before. In its place was a ruin. The roof was gone, and part of the first floor had collapsed. Pieces of wood were sticking out of the hole it had created, like sharp teeth coming out of a monster's mouth.
Is this the house you were telling me about?
Harvey had asked me with empathy. I don't understand. I was just there last night. I was there, and it wasn't like that.
Son, this house has been abandoned for years now. There was a woman who lived here, but that was a very long time ago.
What happened to her? That was years ago. You couldn't have... What happened?
She took her own life.
Harvey replied gravely. While they were talking, we both looked at the ruins of the house.
Right after her son's death, it was a terrible accident because of a group of kids from the city. I don't know all the details, but at that time I was young too. All I know is that it wasn't pretty to see, and she blamed one of the boys for her son's death. Sometime later, that same kid ended up in the hospital. I don't know much more than that. Like I told you, it was a nasty business. So do you understand why nobody lives there anymore? Just look at the state of that dump. Come on, admit it. You're making fun of me, aren't you? It's impossible that you were there last night. Tell me if you're playing a joke on me.
Looking into his eyes, I saw that he was terrified. Yes, I was pulling your leg. Did I say it flatly?
Ah, is it? Is it someone from town who told you my name?
His voice was trembling, almost pleading.
Someone from town must have told you to do this to me.
Yes, someone from town told me your name, and he also told me to play this prank on you, Harvey sighed.
Well, you got me, my boy. Oh my god, yes, you really got me. Come on now, let's get to work.
It didn't take us long to get the car out of the ditch. It started up again. I shook Harvey's hand and thanked him for his help. As he and I each went our separate ways, we both suddenly stopped when we heard something horrible. It was coming from the ruins. It was the piano, the delicate and melancholic music coming from a piano. We paused for a moment, listening silently, without saying a single word. None of us showed any sign of what we were really hearing. Then, still in silence, we each went our separate ways. I never spoke to Harvey again, but since that night, every evening, I heard the same melody. I can even hear it right now, as I'm writing this letter. My God, please. Help me. I can't stop thinking about her.